Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, we're heading out in the fields to talk with farmer Paul Good, hear what he's learned in 70 years of farming and how it could result in a prestigious award.
Plus, we'll tell you about advancements in medicine for injured horses. Hear how one type of treatment could help the animals with arthritis, fractures, and ligament damage.
The Food Factor asked you to tell us your favorite tomato sandwich recipes. We'll share with you some summertime favorites sure to make your mouth water.
And have you had it with wild pigs destroying your land? We've got a step-by-step guide to trap and eliminate the problem for good. It's part 2 of our Hogumentary. Farm Week starts right now. Hello everyone, I'm Leighton Spann.
I'm Troy Moling. Thanks for joining us today on Farm Week. We've got a really great show for you, lots to talk about, really excited about it. I know you are too. We've got a little something for everybody, horses, hogs, tomatoes, even a birthday party for starters.
Right. Yes, we do have a party. But first, last week you introduced us to Paul Good, a farmer in North Mississippi. Now he's been farming for some 70 years. And you've got an extended look today at his operation and an award he's been nominated for.
That's right, I do. To be a farmer is a life of hard work and dedication. It means devoting your life to making sure people have food on the table. It means taking risks and making sacrifices. And as Leighton mentioned, Paul Good is a man who has spent the last 70 years of his life doing just that. He was recently nominated for a major award. I took a trip to his farm to learn what he's in the running for and what makes his farm a cut above the rest. When you've been farming for 70 years, you can expect your fair share of visitors coming to see what you do. And for Paul Good, showing hospitality comes as naturally as starting up a tractor. But this latest group is particularly special.
He is the Mississippi winner for the Swisher Sweet Southeastern Sunbelt Farmer of the Year.
That's Dennis Reginelli, and he's known Paul Good for 25 years. He knows there's a lot at stake with this award, 10 total state nominees and 1 ultimate winner. Dennis is the Mississippi State Extension agent responsible for Paul's nomination. And for him, it was a no-brainer.
If you look at Mr. Good, you look at the little things that he's doing that make big impact on his farm. And when you start looking at what his impact has made, not only to the county but to the state, and we in Extension take a lot of those things that he has initiated, and we take them to the other growers in the county.
Paul has spent 42 of his 90 years on this earth farming in Mississippi. He started off as a cotton kingpin, but more recently he's farmed soybeans, corn, catfish, and wheat across 1,000 acres.
We continually keep thinking every day, and we take evaluation every year. What can we do to make our farming practice more successful, and how are some of the practices that we might have to change to fit the crops that we are raising?
For Mississippi State Extension, almost 3/4 of a century of experience has proven to be invaluable.
When we do projects with Mr. Good and the results are shared, you know that they come from an outstanding farm with all the practices done correctly. So not only can we share information with him, he's sharing his resources and land with us so we can get valuable data so we can share around the state.
The overall winner will be announced on October 18th and be awarded a $15,000 cash prize. That's all good for Paul Good, but this nonagenarian heads to the fields every day for a different purpose.
This has been an honor to be selected. I've met a lot of wonderful people, and I just hope that through this award that we can better allow the people of the United States to realize we're still trying to produce the cleanest, the safest, and the most nutritious product we have ever produced.
That ceremony on October 18th will be held in Moultrie, Georgia. So best of luck to Paul Good, and of course, we'll let you know if he wins.
Well, if something doesn't feel right with your body, then you'll probably go to the doctor. The same applies to horses, too. Farmweek's Amy Taylor Myers tells us about one type of treatment that large animal veterinarians are doing to ease the animal's pain.
The popping noise you hear is the sound of healing. Extracorporeal shockwave therapy is used to treat a variety of major equine injuries, like damage to the tendon, ligament, muscle, or even joints. Mississippi State University College of Veterinary Medicine assistant professors Drs. Kathleen Mokel and Robin Fontenot explain how the treatment works.
It actually sends a little pulse of an ultrasonic wave that causes these little micro vacuoles of air to kind of pop, and what it does is in that stimulates the cells and the tissues around to kind of increase the blood flow to the area. The other thing it does is when it does that little pop next to the bone, tendon, or ligament interface, it causes that to increase the rate of cell turnover there, so they actually lay down more mineralization trying to strengthen it. But one of the biggest things it does is along the nerve endings in the capsule there, it actually changes nerve conduction and helps alleviate pain.
Probably some of the first applications were in the 90s, and now it's a very commonplace therapy that we rely on. But it's really branched out since then to include treatment of joint injuries, back pain, also even things like wound healing. So kind of increasing new blood vessel growth into wounds, treating wounds that are infected, anything from back pain from a poor saddle fit to a potentially career-ending tendon or ligament injury.
Because shockwave therapy can act as a pain mask, the horse is rested for 3 days after treatment, and it's not allowed on race horses within a certain period of a race. From Mississippi State University, I'm Amy Taylor Myers reporting.
With tomato season comes tomato sandwiches, but what's the best recipe? In this week's Food Factor, MSU Extension's Natasha Haynes asked you to tell us your favorites, and you responded.
Recently, I asked our Food Factor followers on social media to share their favorite way to dress up a traditional summertime classic, a tomato sandwich. And boy, did we get some creative recipes. Tara from Tate County says Roma tomato slices on French bread are the starting point for her masterpiece. She then spreads on a layer of hummus and finishes with a dusting of salt, pepper, and Parmesan cheese. Delicious! Garden fresh tomatoes and cucumbers are the trademark for Emily from Alabama. Add bacon, Swiss cheese, mayo, and black pepper, and she says you'll swear by it. My personal favorite, however, comes from Becca in Pensacola. She takes a sun-dried tomato bagel, adds a slab of tomato, sliced avocado, and sharp cheddar cheese, and then she toasts it open-faced under the broiler. Simple, but rich in flavor and style. The good thing is, they're all winners. Tomatoes are rich in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. It's time to make healthy food a factor in your life.
That avocado one looks very, very good to me. I'll need to try that. You can find even more recipes on the Food Factor page on Pinterest.
Well, it is party time here at Farm Week. In this week's edition of Southern Gardening, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman invites us to a party that has been 20 years in the making.
Happy birthday, Southern Gardening. Did you know Southern Gardening is 20 years old this month? Well, that's right. It started in 1996 with host Norman Winter. And then 6 years ago, I stepped in as the host. Sit back and enjoy some highlights from the show over the years.
While here in the South, we think of grass as something for the cows to eat. Watch as your neighbor rakes and bags his pine straw for garbage pickup. Then sneak out in the early morning and raid it for your yard.
Many of you football fans probably think the word pansy means kind of wimpy, but the fact is these beautiful flowers are tough enough to take most winters in the South. That's it.
There are times when I consider myself part of the CSI horticulture unit. Luscious Loropetalum. Observe my power. Do you know how water gets from the roots to the top of the plant? Well, let's find out. Because they're really hot. Shishigashira, woo! I don't normally watch television for advice on love, but when I do, it's Southern Gardening. The crew of Southern Gardening enjoys bringing you great horticultural information, and we hope to celebrate many more birthdays. We'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
20 years and still going strong. Here's to 20 more years of great Southern Gardening, but
Right.
We're celebrating here in the studio. Anything to celebrate as far as the markets are concerned today?
Well, not for one poultry company. In fact, one producer says consumers are actually being misled a little bit about the issue of antibiotics in chicken. Also ahead in our market segment this week, a beef trade deal between the U.S. and Brazil has cattlemen concerned. Cotton prices turn a little lower, sharply in fact, at midweek, but analysts say it's still a bullish market, and lumber rallies, but Canada is getting a lot of the benefit. Well, contrary to other poultry companies, Sanderson Farms of Laurel is rolling out an ad campaign promoting the responsible use of antibiotics in chicken production. The company says other processors are using marketing gimmicks to mislead consumers and sell products at a higher price. Corporate veterinarian Dr. Phil Stayer says the company has not seen any credible scientific research to support the idea that the judicious use of antibiotics in chicken contributes to antibiotic resistance in humans. The company says it has a responsibility to protect the welfare of its animals, which is directly related to improved food safety. Well, on the beef side of the livestock sector, there are some unhappy folks over the latest trade news this week. The USDA is now allowing fresh and frozen beef from Brazil to come into the United States. At the same time, beef and beef products from this country can be exported to Brazil. Now, that hasn't happened since 2003. U.S. cattle groups say they are concerned about Brazil's ongoing issues with livestock diseases, such as foot and mouth disease. Trader Ted Seifert says he doesn't know all the details yet, but thinks this deal is more positive than negative for the United States.
I don't really know for sure what's going to happen with that. But like you said, that's trade going both ways. So, you know, the bright side of that is that, hey, that opens up the door to more exports, potentially. For corn, we're going to be sending more corn to Brazil because of their crop issues that they've had. So that potential is great. But it can come the other way too. So I think that you want to look at it as a positive sign for the market or a positive input to the market.
Well, we continue in the beef sector now. In the overall cattle area, prices have rallied sharply over the last few weeks, but some weakness as we approach mid-month is creating a drag on those price pictures. Meanwhile, analysts like Angie Setzer believe heavier weight cattle are in the offing, and that is a problem in itself down the road.
I think feeder cattle supplies are decent. I think live cattle supplies are decent. I mean, we're not in any concern on the supply side. I wonder what will happen from a global standpoint. You know, we've had a lot of competition with what's going on in Brazil. We are going to start to feed back to higher weights, I think. And so, you know, it's going to take less cattle to produce the same amount of meat.
Well, it's time now for today's trivia quiz on Farm Week, and our question is about a row crop we grow in the state. And here it is. How does Mississippi rank nationally in grain sorghum production? Is the state number 3, number 9, number 14, or number 22? We'll have that answer coming up here on Farm Week.
We're going to pause for a short break, but don't go anywhere. Still ahead, Leighton tells us the reason behind the booming cotton and lumber markets. Plus, this little piggy went to market, this little piggy stayed home, and this little piggy got caught in a hog trap. If wild pigs are destroying your land, we'll show you how a trap you can build yourself could solve your problem. Stay with us.
There are some moments in life where everything seems to be just right. Time slows down, and memories are made that will last a lifetime. That is, unless you've got fire ants. Then those memories can quickly turn into nightmares. It's time to bite back, Mississippi. Learn how to make your yard a safe place to play again at msucares.com/biteback.
It's now the time when we highlight some exciting things happening within the state of Mississippi. In this week's Farm Week Focus, we're showcasing the upcoming Master Naturalist program. A Master Naturalist is a person who's interested in nature, wants to learn about wildlife, and strives to give back to their community. If that sounds like you, Mississippi State Extension has got you covered. Course registration is open for classes with the Master Naturalist Coastal Chapter. You'll learn all about the wildlife ecosystem and the role you play in making it strong. Classes begin on September 2nd and meet 8 times through October. The cost is $200 and includes all course materials. Classes will meet in different cities across the Mississippi coast. They'll include classroom lectures, field activities, and field exercises. The hope is that after the course is complete, you'll take what you've learned about natural resources to educate others and encourage wildlife training and volunteering where you live. Contact Eric Sparks or go to the website on your screen for more information.
Well, strong exports are believed to be a key factor in why the cotton market has been so bullish of late. Besides the fresh Chinese business, some of the U.S. crop is said to be deteriorating, though, and that's also serving to help prices as well. However, cotton was limit down Tuesday of this week and sharply lower as of Wednesday morning. Extension economist Brian Williams talked to me about the cotton market. Well, we're talking prior to the release of the new ag supply and demand numbers. Is this likely to fuel this cotton market?
Well, it probably will. When we look at last month's numbers, they had higher demand, increased demand. They had lower production, and then those two combined left us with lower ending stocks in the July numbers. And every indication that we're seeing right now is probably more the same in the August numbers. We're looking at India and Pakistan, two major cotton producers on the global level. They're looking to have lower than expected production. U.S. exports and demand is expected to be increased again. So, it looks like we probably will see more of the same.
Well, obviously, with these high prices, you would think maybe a price correction could be in the offing in cotton. Is that likely? I know there's no crystal ball here.
It's possible, but given all the signs that we're seeing right now and with the expectations for this report, we probably won't see much of a correction in the near term, maybe long term, but short term probably not, unless we see a surprise in this Friday's report.
Now, you mentioned exports a while ago, but that's really key, right, to keeping this price up where it is.
It is, and when we look at the U.S. exports, they've been really strong the last several weeks, and that's really helped to keep pushing that price higher and higher and higher, and it's really provided a boost to our cotton producers.
Now, some of the commentary seems to indicate that some of the weather problems in parts of the U.S. is also factoring into this price picture that we have.
It is, and I don't think that's going to quite show up in this month's report as much as it will in next month's report, just because of some surveys that they were sending out on the yields were a little bit earlier in the season before the drought took hold.
In the forest products arena this week, lumber prices are off to their biggest rally in more than a decade, this according to Daily Woodwire. In fact, prices touched a 19-month high late last month. However, the sad part of this boom in the use of wood for new home construction is that almost 1/3 of the lumber being used in America is coming in from Canada. Some lawmakers in D.C. are now pushing for a new softwood lumber trade agreement that may include import tariffs of 30% or higher to slow down the flood from our neighbor to the north. The previous trade pact between the U.S. and Canada expired last year. Well, back to the trivia quiz now as we wrap things up in the markets. Our question again was about grain sorghum, and the answer is B. Mississippi ranks 9th in the country in the production of this crop.
Last week, we told you about the feral hog problem that's impacting numerous states across the country. Experts say that if something isn't done in Mississippi, the problem could soon reach disastrous proportions. In part 2 of our Hogumentary, Farmweek's Tim Allison shows you step-by-step ways to build a trap to contain and control wild hogs on your land.
In order to eradicate wild hog populations or reduce their damage to acceptable levels, landowners and land managers need to think in terms of large-scale removal on an annual basis. Currently, trapping is the most effective and efficient practice by which this can be accomplished. Trapping is a continuous activity and requires far less time and effort than shooting and/or hunting with dogs. In other words, you don't always have to be on site to be successful. Before you build a trap, first scout the property for areas of high use, such as travel routes, wallows, and loafing areas to locate potential trap sites. Begin baiting these sites with shelled whole kernel, dried or fermented corn. 2 sites per 100 acres is usually sufficient. Also, be sure and consult your state wildlife agency to determine if a permit is required to trap wild hogs and to lawfully place corn or other baits on the ground for this purpose. Monitoring each site with a game camera is highly recommended. Camera footage will provide information as to how many groups of hogs are visiting the bait site and the number of individual hogs in each group. This information is useful in determining what size trap to build. Once pig activity has been confirmed at one of your bait sites, it's time to move in and set up a trap. In this video, an extension wildlife specialist will construct a circular corral trap. This type of trap is the most effective for capturing large groups or sounders of wild hogs in a single trapping event. Corral traps are relatively easy to build, taking a 2-man crew less than an hour to erect. Also, as an additional benefit to the landowner, are often less expensive than the smaller prefabricated traps. The materials needed to construct this type of trap are as follows. A trap door of your choosing. 4 to 6 16 feet by 5 feet welded wire livestock panels with no larger than 4-inch by 4-inch openings. 11 to 15 steel T-post. U-bolts or a roll of heavy gauge wire. And a package of 20+ zip ties or cable ties. To begin building the corral trap, set the trap door in place and drive a T-post firmly into the ground on each side of it. Be sure the studded sides of the T-post are facing what will be the inside of the trap and that the post fits snug against each side of the trap door. With the door in place, position a livestock panel on each side of the trap door so that the ends of the panel and the door frame meet together. Be sure the horizontal strands of the livestock panels are facing the inside of the trap enclosure and the panel ends are positioned on the inside of the T-post against the studded side. Once properly aligned, secure the livestock panels and T-post using 2 to 3 steel U-bolts. With the trap door now in place and livestock panels attached on each side of the door, move to the unattached open ends of each of the livestock panels and begin connecting the remaining panels. The adjoining sections should overlap each other by approximately 8 to 12 inches and then be secured together using either 5/8-inch cable clamps or heavy gauge wire. Complete the circle and fine-tune the corral shape by pulling the joined panels in or out as necessary. When satisfied with the size and shape of the corral, begin working around the outside of the enclosure, driving steel T-post into the ground at the middle of each overlapped panel section and at the middle of each livestock panel itself. Again, Make sure the wire panels fit snug against the T-post. You want the corral trap to be as strong as possible to resist any escape efforts by the pigs. Finally, 1 or 2 additional T-posts driven into the ground on each side of the trap door will provide added strength to the trap. This area is the most critical, as game camera footage of captured pigs suggests they tend to focus most of their escape efforts at or alongside the trap door. Final construction of the trap is completed by fastening the livestock panels to the T-post using 2 U-bolts per post. One at the bottom of the panel, about 12 inches from the ground, and one just below the top strand. If using heavy gauge wire to fasten the livestock panels to the T-post, remember to use a wire fastener once every foot, beginning a few inches from the ground. This should result in 5 fasteners per T-post. Trapping wild hogs requires time and patience, especially in areas where they've been harassed by humans. So don't be alarmed if it takes as long as a week for all the hogs in a group to finally enter the trap. Although the trapping process may take longer than you anticipated, keep your eye on the prize of catching them all in one trapping event.
We've had a lot of good feedback with this story, so if you want to see more videos and have more information about it, we do have a website for you.
That's right, wildpiginfo.com. It's a good one. Check it out.
Oh yeah, next week, going to have a good one too. We're talking about the kudzu bug. We'll go to a field day in Verona, and we'll even have some back-to-school lunch tips for you in the Food Factor. We'll see you then.
Good night.